According to the recently released Gross Domestic Report released by the National Bureau of Statistics (NBS), Nigeria's gross domestic product grew by 3.11% year-on-year in real terms in the first quarter of 2022, indicating the sixth consecutive quarter of positive growth by the Nigerian economy. The first quarter 2022 growth rate was higher than 0.51% growth rate recorded in the corresponding period of 2021 by 2.60% points and lower than 3.98% recorded in fourth quarter 2021 by 0.88% points. However, on a quarter-on-quarter basis, real GDP contracted by 14.66% in first quarter 2022 compared to fourth quarter 2021, reflecting a lower economic activity than the preceding quarter. A further breakdown indicates that the oil sector of the Nigerian economy declined by 26.04% year-on-year in first quarter 2022, indicating a decrease of 23.83% points relative to the rate recorded in the corresponding quarter of 2021. On the flip side, the non-oil sector grew by 6.08% in real terms during the reference quarter, that's the first quarter 2022. This rate was higher by 5.28% points in comparison to the rate recorded same quarter of 2021 and 1.34% points higher than the fourth quarter of 2021. Interestingly, the non-oil sector was driven in the first quarter of 2022 mainly by information and communication, that is telecommunication, trade, financial and insurance, agriculture and manufacturing, which includes food, beverage and tobacco, accounting for positive GDP growth. In real terms, the non-oil sector contributed 93.37% to the nation's GDP, while the oil sector accounted for 6.63% of the GDP in the review period. For more analysis, Kayode Ekundayo is a publisher at StarTimes. He joins us now. Hello, good to have you.
Good morning.
Good morning, good to have you on board.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Now, very quickly, looking at the oil sector performance, the sector of the Nigerian economy contracted by 26.04% year-on-year in first quarter 2022, and this indicates a decrease of 23.83% points relative to the rate recorded in the corresponding quarter of 2021. What would you attribute this to?
The reason why Nigerian recorded so low in the first quarter has been the reason for the fact that for the last 10 years, there have been no more investment in the oil sector, oil and gas sector. And the CIA that are supposed to have boosted the industry is yet to be effective. And as a result of that, with what is going on in the Niger Delta region, all these things attributed and contributed to what we are after, what we are seeing, the declining of the GDP as well as the incidentally the main area of the Nigerian economy and where the resources come from. Unfortunately, efforts have been made, even with the signing of different contracts, different deals to boost the sector. We are yet to see the effect, and this will go on till almost the third quarter of the year. And if you notice so well that for the last almost even for 20 years now, we have not seen any exploration in terms of new oil discovery. And some of these things is affecting the sector. And if you see, the international oil companies that are big, the big oil companies that are big in Nigeria, are selling off their assets. And which incidentally is telling us that there's something wrong with our system, there's something wrong with our economy, and no more, even investments they are sorting out for, they are not coming to the country. And that is the end of PIA.
Yes.
That's the end of PIA. Yes, and the PIA has not even taken effect effectively. How many people have you seen coming to say they are investing, or they are even taking license to say they want to exploit for more oil in the Niger Delta, or even in the Benue too? Nothing has taken place, and that is what is likely to happen throughout the year, because the sluggish way the PIA is being implemented is likely to affect most especially the oil and gas sector. The only place we are hearing the PIA taking effect is in the NNPC, and more so the decentralization of DPR. Thereby, we have the NUPR, and we have the NUPR DPC, So this is the only implementation the CIA has taken effect on. No other area that we could have seen that the CIA is being implemented. And it's likely to affect us throughout this year because this is already May. And by next month, we have only 2 or 3 days to go to June. This is the middle of the year. So how many months do we have to end the year? I mean, if there's likely to be a major impact on the sector, we will be seeing it right now. There's nothing, and the politics is already taking place. And I mean, next year is election period. Any election that is coming to country, like Nigeria during election, will be very, very careful. Because they will be very, very careful to put in their money. So we can say technically that within the next 1 year, there is not likely to be major investment in the oil and gas industry. Not basically because of the election coming up, and whoever is going to win, whoever is, not the United Data issue is still going on. So they are thinking in Anambra, the number of oil blocks in the Anambra region. The United Data in the data, and all these things is going to have a bigger impact on the economy, and even the GDP we are talking about is going to be declining very, very seriously. So a lot of effort has to be put in place. To me, I don't see any major investment, and I don't see major impact on the crude oil exploration and production. And even if we look at OPEC last month, they increased the Nigerian quota. Unfortunately, we do not even mean up to that. We are provisional at 1.5, 1.6, instead of 1.7 with Lagos. So there's a lot of disadvantages coming into the sector.
All right, let me come in here. All right, you've said a whole lot about what's happening in the oil and gas sector. What interventions do you envisage, or what interventions would you recommend so we can have, quick wins, probably in the short term and also in the long term in that sector?
Yes. At this moment we are now in the Nigerian economy system, because of the political situation now, there is nothing one can recommend that can work at this period. Even the government is not even facing the economy now. They are facing who becomes the next president, who becomes the next governor, who becomes the Senate, even the Senate has gone on there. They won't come back until June or July. And what are you going to recommend? If the ground resume in July or June, they have how many months to have a delegation or whatever. So the CIA will have been the best option to encourage the sector in the economy. Unfortunately, it's not being implemented. A committee was set up to look at the way they will implement the CIA. Up to this moment, we don't even hear anything about them. We don't even know what they are doing, what the committee members are doing. We don't even know how far they have gone to implement what is in the CIA. So it's a lot of challenges coming on our way in the implementation of CIA. But I think after next year, we can now think, we can now advise the government on what to do. Any advice we do at this period is not likely to take any effect. It's not likely to work because the focus now is on the election.
All right, let's move away from
that. We are in the election period, yes.
Now, according to a report, the oil sector isn't a major contributor to economic growth in the first quarter of 2022. Now, what may have been the cause? Could it be linked to the Russian-Ukrainian war, which has caused a glut in the supply of petroleum resources, leading a dip in its prices?
Hello?
Yes, we'd like to have your reaction on that. We're looking at the fact that, did you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Let's just...
All right, okay. So I was saying that according to a report, the oil sector is not a major contributor to economic growth in the first quarter of 2022. Now the question now is what could have been the cause? Can it be linked with the Russian-Ukrainian war, or what exactly is your own reaction to that?
We have seen what is going on in the Niger Delta. Definitely, it couldn't have been the war contributing largely to the economy in the first quarter. We've seen what was going on or what is going on in the Niger Delta. We have seen the vandalizations that are taking place on the pipeline. We have seen the kidnapping. We have seen the rate of stealing of our crude oil. You remember how much crude oil Nigeria is using on daily basis in the first quarter of last year. So these are the things that couldn't make us reach even the upper figure. In the first quarter, we recorded 1.4 million barrels per day. In the first quarter, instead of 1.6 releasing a lot of dust. In fact, at times, we recorded 1.2 in a week. So these are the impacts, these are the reasons why we couldn't have made it. We couldn't. It's not possible. And as we are able to say, as I said earlier, Nigeria has been unable to make it its open quota. Till now, 1.7 million barrels per day. Now we are talking about it's not because of Ukraine and the Russia war. No. Actually, many we register how many countries are moving away from Russia demand and all those things. But it will have been an opportunity for us to explore and make a lot of money in gas from Nigeria. So how many opportunities are we exploring? These are the challenges we are facing. The Niger Delta is a critical place where we are having different refineries. Every day, different new refineries are springing up. And it's a major loss to Nigeria economy. And we have advised the government, why not license these illegal refineries? There was a time in 2015 or 2016 when the president was released. The vice president went to the east, to the Niger Delta, and promised that they are going to spring up, they are going to license some cluster of illegal refineries.
Okay, let me come in here. When you talk about illegal refineries, there are those who have said, no, you don't legalize illegality.
Yeah, if we say they don't legalize illegality, I've not seen any option at this period. This illegality keeps on rising in the Niger Delta. And what the government was thinking, or what the vice president told the people in the Niger Delta at that time was that they are going to create a cluster of small refineries where all these people will come together and form their own refinery alongside the same cluster of area. And they will be refining legally. But in a day, we have read it whereby almost 1,000 spots of illegal refinery are destroyed daily. I think in the first quarter of this year. Now, if we have all these things being springing up every day, that destroyed there, they are coming up. How do you now meet the effort quota? How do you now see your GDP rising? How does the oil sector that is the main aspect on which the bill of economy rotates become that budget and continue playing that particular role? It's not possible. And the advice we are giving to government of several occasions and doing that, find ways to bring these people together. Find ways to bring these people, because if you continue to destroy, they keep on rising, they keep on spreading up. Somewhere else. The terrain is known by them. The terrain where they are springing up this illegal refinery is not known to them. And some of them have their own offshore, inside deep water. These are the challenges we are talking about. So for how long are we going to continue to destroy?
All right,
and
come in here, please.
So much of the destruction.
All right, let's look at oil theft. Now the question is, why is it difficult to nip this in the bud?
To make the legal refinery.
Oil theft.
Yeah, that is what It's actually the pipeline. Some of these, some of these international companies are diverting from the onshore field because they are pipeline lay on the ground, on the surface. Some are buried. This can easily be open because these are pipelines that are laid almost 30-40 years ago. Some of them are getting open. Easily they put low. And that is the reason we have now had this so much that there is oil debt in offshore. Yeah, some of these oil companies, international oil companies, are making it. They want to sell all their facilities on the onshore because it's easily accessible by all these ships. And the reason why it is difficult to move and stop this crisis, I think because the pipeline are new. And how many security men you want to have on almost 4,000 kilometer pipeline? How many security men do you want to have? It's difficult. And that's why some of us are asking that a new pipeline should be laid across the country. Whereby, because there are technology now whereby you lay a pipe, there is already security network where you bury the pipe. So if anything happens to that pipe, you can quickly be noticed at any point within that region. and they can easily stop that thing. But we keep on talking. Nobody is acting. Nobody is acting, and that's the reason why this thing will continue to. And okay, the illegal mockery has been continuing. Has been a consistent this thing. Even before some of us that come to Wabon. Illegal refinery is where people, politicians, all these Nigerian people are making, and it's not an individual thing. It's a combined effort of Abba who are doing this thing, and you have a lot of money in their hands to give the security to go, and so to see. So it's difficult to come. I must tell you the truth. But the only way we can use the action of what are saying that they should do is to have this factor very deeply into the ground. Very deeply. The some of the pipeline we have in the past, they are very, some are made of the surface. On surface of there, I've found the Niger Delta in the past, and I've seen how the pipeline are made. It's easy to vandalize and see kudos.
All right, now let's move on now. Is it appropriate to say that a reallocation of factor resources from sectors where they are less efficient to sectors where they seem more productive might be a major factor which would have affected growth in the oil sector? What's your perspective on that?
What contributed to growth in the oil sector?
Okay, so what I was saying is that is it appropriate to say that a reallocation of factor resources from sectors where they are less efficient to sectors where they seem more productive might be a major factor which would have affected growth in the oil sector?
Thank you so much. I don't think so, ma. I don't think so. The way things are, it's not because of the reallocation or that is making things, that is not making the industry working. The way it is, you can make it work. You can make it work. There's nothing wrong with the way things are. And that is the reason, as I said earlier, the PIE, everything has been specified in it. I've read through it, even because it was fast. I've seen several copies of it. The way things are in the oil industry is the best way they are operating across the world, even Angola, even Saudi Arabia, everywhere. And if it is fully implemented, which I believe in the next 2 or 3 years, we will see a different oil industry. Because we are seeing the situation period whereby people are skeptical, they don't even know the direction where the sky is taking us to. So to me, there's nothing wrong with what we are doing. And I will advise Nigerians to wait for investors to see what the actualization of PRA will be. The implementation how it's going to look like. The resources we have to do is still better, and even the allocation to it is still better. I mean, in the PRA, we see whereby the figure for things that we are giving 30%, and even the community, they are part of people who are going to enjoy these resources. It's not that it's not the PRA has looked into serious issues in the Niger Delta that have been dealt with. So the implementation is what we are waiting for, and I believe it will be executed very well.
All right, looking at the oil sector now, is there possibility of, a positive growth in the remaining quarter of this year?
Okay.
The oil sector now, looking at it from now up until the end of this year, is there possibility of growth?
Yes, I can't see. I'm not pessimistic. What I'm seeing, there is not likely to be that growth. They expected their growth, as I said earlier. Not until the PRA, people are waiting for the PRA to be implemented. And I said to you, since past even more than 15 years, there will not be any single disruption. If you understand what I mean, I'm saying with all sincerity, there is no oil company that have discovered a new fresh crude oil in many areas in Niger Delta. How do you now see that it goes? There is what we have been seeing is the diversion of international companies from their onshore facilities because of the insecurity that is prevailing in the whole Niger Delta region. So this process will continue to the end of the year. We have been seeing it. The divestment will continue. Total has just done. Shell is doing. Every European has just done. So all these processes will continue until when we have a strong security network across across the oil energy data where these oil companies are operating. So to me, I'm not foreseeing any strong growth in the sector. When thereby you couldn't even meet the oil they are producing, the quota they are giving freely. Nigeria has not met OPEC quota. So how do you see growth in the economy, in the GDP? It will come. They have never met OPEC quota in the last 5 years. They have never.
All right, I believe this is a good place to anchor. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on the show this morning.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.